Okay. I think we're live. Finally. Hello, everyone. I think we're live. Yes, we are. I don't know what was going on there. The software was not. It was telling me it wasn't going to work. But anyway, we've got it working. We've got the camera working. That wasn't working a minute ago, and we are ready to go. So anyway, welcome to episode 2 of. I think we got a new title, or a title, rather than Design and Chill. We're going to call it the Ramble Stream. Because I don't know if we talked about it yet, but rambling is it's our new word. It's the word of the year, the word of the decade for Janus, and we're going to have a lot more on what rambling means and what it means specifically for us here at Janus. But suffice it to say that it is to go out for a stroll or a motorcycle ride or a walk or a hike or an adventure, not for practical reasons, but for leisure. And I hope, like me, some of you all had a chance today to go out on a good ramble and enjoy your leisure time on a Sunday afternoon. So I don't know if let's see, we got some comments. Oh, we got people here already. Awesome. If you care to share what you're sipping on, I'm sipping on some coffee. It's a little late for some people to drink coffee, but I spent enough time in Rome to learn to drink coffee late into the evening. Ooh, look! So hey, I'm trying out something new here, putting the chat on the main screen. And I finally got it to work. It seems a little laggy, so we'll see how it works. But yeah. I went on a ramble today, but not on a Janus, oddly enough. I took out my old, well, not that old, my 2009 Kawasaki KLR, which doesn't get as much use as my Halcyon 250, number 68, but it is a good bike to ride around, and it's a great bike to learn about. Kind of the same. It's kind of like a rambling motorcycle. The old saying about the KLR, blasphemy, says Grant. The old saying about the KLR is, in the post-apocalyptic world, the only thing running around are going to be cockroaches and KLRs. But why don't we add some Januses to that list? I think that the Janus, especially the 250, has every bit as much reliability and low tech as the KLR to be able to, actually more. It'll be definitely running around in the post-apocalyptic world. But anyway, I always say, if I only rode a Janus, I wouldn't have any perspective. So my motto, if you ever come and visit and you offer, hey, you want to take my motorcycle out? Like a lot of people that visit offer you're letting me take out your bike, why don't you take out mine? I will always say yes. As long as I'm not in a wheelchair, I will I will take you up on it. And that having so many people offer that and going to motorcycle events, I have had a unique opportunity to ride a lot of different bikes. And I think it makes the way that we approach our bikes more rich for us to be able to ride all kinds of different things. And the same thing is true for all our owners. I know there are a lot of you all out there that have a lot of different bikes, and your Janus may not be your only bike. It may be your only bike, but find solace in the fact that there are many, many Janus owners who have a stable or have had, especially folks like Mark, who was on the last live stream. He's had 300 or close to 300 motorcycles over the course of his life. And he has a 250. We're still trying to get him to get a 450, but they're a nice addition to your fleet, or a great place to start when you're getting into biking. They are there's a place for everybody in the world of motorcycle rambling. So anyway, let's take a quick look at the comment stream. Grant's waving. He's got a couple of different motorcycle emojis. Oh, we got a red one. Andrew Felix. Fire KJA. Second ride today I'm assuming of the year in Wisconsin on number 132. Well done. Well done. Andrew says, just finished a Pigeon Hill salted caramel porter, maybe? Might open another. And Grant had just had a limeade with New York strip. Wow, okay. Chuck Watts had a Peroni. Andrew says, Halcyons will live forever. I think they will. Just give them a little oil change every so often and tune up those valves and you're good to go. Francis in Lindau, Bavaria, Germany. Beer. Well done. Well done, Francis. That's fantastic. Chuck Watts did a ramble up the Blue Ridge Parkway toward the Peaks of Otter today. Fantastic. I'm actually from Virginia originally, as some of you know, and I've spent many trips although I've never ridden a motorcycle up to the Peaks of Otter. I've been camping up there. I got a flat tire at the top of the Peaks of Otter in my vintage Volvo one time and had to, I don't know how we ended up finally limping it. It had the original spare tire with the safety spelled in the tread on the tire. And somehow that old thing still had air enough in it that I got to the bottom of Peaks of Otter to an old, it felt like, that was a ramble. It felt like I was going back maybe to some kind of blacksmithy in old England, because there was this old man at the bottom of the hill who had a repair shop, and it was just like this ramshackle old junk in the backyard, and he took the wheel off. He was real gruff, cussed a lot. I remember that. Took the wheel off and plugged it, and I remember asking him, I said, is that going to last very long? And he goes, it'll last blah, 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 longer than the wheel, or longer than the tire. And then he threw the tire in this old, like, cast iron trough. I think it was like an agricultural trough, to see if it was right out front of his shop, to see if it would hold air. And it did. And I think when I sold that car, it still had that tire on it. 1983 Volvo 240DL, mustard yellow. It was a good car. Scott Spence is on. Hey, Scott. Scott's right up the road. And I think, Scott, you have a new 450, either freshly in your hands or on the way. Remind me there. Chuck Watt says it's nice to live really close to it. Yeah, absolutely. Pete Marino just took the Griffin to church today. Well done, my friend. That's awesome. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Every one of these is going to be a little more organized, I hope. I've got a little bit more planning in this one today, and we'll see if I can actually stick to the plan. But I figured, knowing me and I have a literature degree in my background, and literature and poetry plays a big role in the way we think about motorcycles. I figured we could start with a good poem. Now, you may not be into it. You can mute your YouTube for a while, or come back another time. But I figured we'll at least start with a poem. We'll make the first one a short one. We'll do a Wilbur. Yeah, we'll do a Wilbur poem for this one. So, in my undergrad, we really had a specialty. Our favorite poet, who I got to see read, he died a couple of years ago. He was a cryptologist. I'm not sure which one. He was a code breaker in World War II, which is what a great profession for a poet, or a training maybe for a poet. But all of his poems are very cryptographic and beautiful. He's also a poet who he was very much, I will not compare myself to Richard Wilbur, but he had a similar appreciation for history and tradition, and he worked within the kinds of historic meters. He was not kind of like an Allen Ginsberg or a modernist poet, although he was very, very modern. And incredible poet. I encourage you to look up Richard Wilbur. This is one of his most famous poems called "The Beautiful Changes," and it just reminds me of so much when I read it. But it's a beautiful poem, and I think it's very fitting to talk about on our Ramble stream. "The Beautiful Changes" by Richard Wilbur. One wading a fall meadow finds on all sides the Queen Anne's lace lying like lilies on water. It glides so from the walker. It turns dry grass to a lake as the slightest shade of you valleys my mind in fabulous blue lucernes. The beautiful changes as a forest is changed by a chameleon's tuning his skin to it, as a mantis arranged on a green leaf grows into it, makes the leaf leafier, and proves any greenness is deeper than anyone knows. Your hands hold roses always in a way that says they are not only yours. The beautiful changes in such kind ways, wishing ever to sunder things and things' selves for a second finding, to lose for a moment all that it touches, back to wonder. Pretty transformative, kind of like a ramble. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Moving on. I figure we do a little kind of what's been going on this week here at Janus, kind of catch you all up. Here on the screen, you can kind of see what we'll be working on tonight. We're working on seats in the design world, but I'll refresh that so you can take a look at it. That is the 450 Halcyon seat, just so you know. But anyway, this week at Janus, we've been doing a lot of stuff as always. We started off the week with kind of a hiccup. We had a little as many of you know, we make all the parts for the 450 chassis, and I do, at least for the moment, all the inspections on the 450 chassis, which means that once they're fabricated, we kind of want an extra set of eyes on those before they go to powder coat or anything like that. And so I measure specific things. We have a sheet that I basically fill out, measure and adjust things. And notice I thought some things off on the 450 transom that I was like really worried about it. So we kind of called a meeting, and but anyway, as we do here, we managed to get Charlie, our engineer, involved, figured out a solution to it, and it was basically some pre-assemblies, our tooling basically that we use for the 450 is kind of like it's like a Gen 1 tooling, and it works wonderfully, as you all know. It puts out great parts. Adam Diaz actually was here on Friday, coming up to kind of he built the first two chassis off of it and designed the tooling for us. Great frame builder from Indianapolis. But anyway, we are about ready now that we have more guys working on the tooling, and the tooling is getting a lot more abuse every day. We're pumping parts through it. That we're ready to go to kind of like a second generation tooling, or more like a production style tooling. And so it takes a little more fitment of things, and we noticed some things that we're going to be able to fix on that tooling to make it easier for Dennis, who's our what do we call him? He's not junior because he's older than Jay, our senior fabricator, and he has many decades of welding experience, but he's been doing it for less time. He's been with us about 7 months. And Dennis figuring out some solutions for the tooling to make his job a lot easier. So we're always going through these things where you have to figure something out. Something goes wrong. It's manufacturing. You figure out what it is, but our trick is that we're getting better and better at is figuring that out earlier and earlier and earlier in the process before the last thing you want is for it to get on a bike and then you realize that there's something wrong, because then all that work and that powder coat and all the different processes that happen to it. So anyway, next on the list was that Adam Diaz visited. We have a great video on the YouTube here if you want to check it out on when we were developing the tooling for the 450 with Adam, visiting his shop. So go check that out if you'd like to learn more about your 450 or the 450 tooling. So anyway, he visited. We always like to kind of have him come through and give us, again, another set of eyes on the process. He had some great suggestions for us in terms of improving our efficiency and making everything easier. I think he might be coming back again soon, which we always look forward to. On Tuesday, we had the Modern Machine Shop magazine, which is a fantastic historic publication founded in 1928, which is just a magazine for machinists. It has industry news, etc., and it's still doing exactly what it did almost 100 years ago. Still owned by the same family, and they have a podcast called Made in America, and they were fascinated by our network of local vendors. And so actually, Brent Donaldson, their senior editor, or editor-in-chief, I guess, literally drove along with me on the milk run all around the county and got to meet everybody and see that. So I think that's actually going to get published the day after tomorrow, or it will be released Tuesday, if I'm not wrong. Very soon, at least. So it's a pretty highly produced podcast, so look forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. We were on the Creative Writing podcast, which I think we mentioned last time that I was on that, and that's been published on Creative Writing. So just Google Creative Writing podcast. He has a fantastically weird and quirky podcast that's really funny, and interviewed me. And then we kind of cross-published that on our podcast. He was our kind of guest, which it turned out being kind of an interview of me, which was kind of fun because people like, I've heard from Tom Neal, who mentioned that he hadn't heard about some of the early stuff with the early days of Janus that we covered in that. We have a Roadrunner review, which I can't remember if we mentioned last time. Roadrunner magazine did a review of the 450. Be sure to check that out. That was really good. That we were out in Los Angeles, and they took the 250 and a 450 around Venice Beach, California. We have a delivery trip headed out to California right now. Kyle I think there's a lot of deliveries along the way, but he's got a van and a trailer and a lot of motorcycles. The shop actually, for the first time in quite a while, feels a little bit empty, which is good because we were about out of room with all the motorcycles. I will be on the HP, or the Horsepower Heritage podcast in the coming weeks. Just heard from Maurice, the host of that. That is a really, really neat podcast where he talks to mostly car people, but all about like Aston Martin, like vintage, old 1920s and 30s, Lagonda, Aston Martins, Bentleys, anything to do with vintage cars and classic cars, and the people that are involved in the automobile and motorcycle scene he has on. So I'm looking forward to actually talking to him. He's met some really neat people. We will be setting up, I mentioned last time, in either our live stream, the shop live stream, or mine, that we will be setting up a Distinguished Gentleman's Ride group. I contacted the DGR folks, and that will be launched. It's like Tuesday or Wednesday. They're opening up the sign up for Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. If you're not familiar, I got to give it a little plug here. This Distinguished Gentleman's Ride is a global motorcycle ride that happens in sometime here in April coming up. I don't actually have the exact date. I should look that up. But anyway, we'll have more on it. We'll be publishing it to our social media and website. But we will have a Janus group that you can join, even though if you're not riding with us, if you're riding in your local city. We will have a group where we can all, if you so choose, fundraise together for men's health as Janus Motorcycles team, basically. That is the purpose of the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's not just to ride around in really snappy looking clothes and have fun on your motorcycle. It also raises funds and awareness for men's health, which is a great cause. And that's about all we have for this week. Lots of other stuff, but not everything worth mentioning. If you have any suggestions for future podcast guests, let me know. Other stuff, let's see. Boy, I'm burning up the time here. Other stuff, fun things I wanted to just mention are that I ran across this incredible painting. I'm partial to, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Dazzle paint schemes from World War I and somewhat World War II. But this fantastic painting, here it is, by Eric Ravilius, 1940, of a British warship leaving the Orkney Islands, and it's painted up in Dazzle. Dazzle was this, let's see if I can show you some pictures here. No, that's the wrong one. Dazzle, here you go, is this incredible, basically it's like zebras. They would break up the silhouette of ships. Here's a great one here. And actually, I had a motorcycle helmet when I rode cross country that was Dazzle painted. It was really cool. But anyway, I thought that painting by Revilius was worth taking a peek at. And it's a really interesting integration of all the people that came up with those designs were artists. It was actually a naval technical thing that was developed by artists. And many of the artists like Revilius or what's this other fellow, John Everett, this guy, he actually went on to create a lot of art based on his use of Dazzle. So razzle dazzle, there you go, there you have it. I also learned that, sorry, I'm bouncing around here. I learned that Ferrari made a motorcycle. Has anybody ever seen that? It's a Ferrari. There's only one ever made, 900cc. And the first time I saw it, I just thought it looked like like an old Galera like this. Even right down to the engine. It's almost like they were looking at these old Galeras. This is a Galera from 1950s, mid-50s, I would say, 500. Just gorgeous bike. Look at that thing. With a double cradle frame, just like the Janus line. And then there you have the Ferrari. This is like 1995. They were dabbling in making a motorcycle, and they developed this engine and everything. Pretty cool. Anyway, let's get started on some design stuff. I'm figuring out the timing of all this stuff, so maybe by the 5th episode we will have a good flow to the stream, but we'll see. We're figuring it out. A couple of comments. Scott Spence says he has a 450 in Indy Racing Green on order. Fantastic. And Fire KJA says, I was looking at the underside of my 450 and it looks like there are mounts for a center stand. Am I right? Yes, you are correct. There are mounts for a center stand. Woody has come up with a really, really lovely center stand idea off the back of the bike, much like our 50cc traditional swinging center stand that goes up the back. And we're wondering if it might just be easier in terms of installation and development. We've really struggled with being able to make it clear the exhaust and be stable to come up with something like that. So we are actively working on coming up with the center stand. We know you all want it. But we did actually design in mounts for the center stand on the 450. We'll see what we end up doing with them. So anyway, let's take a look at some design stuff. This is, as I mentioned in the beginning, the 450 solo or saddle, we call it the solo seat. If I were to open the model, if you're looking at a 450 in the flesh, this area where the pivot is, there is so much going on. It's just absolutely, there's not a hair of extra space there. And so we've really had to, you can actually, well, I'll show you. Look, we've actually had to notch out the seat. Can you see those notches? Because what happens right there is that's where the fuel tank is. And the back edge of the Halcyon fuel tank is right there. And we actually have to clear it out to fit so that you can get full range of motion. And we're actually running, it's just a little too tight. And Ryan has requested that we add some more clearance. And so what we've done is, because it's so thin, and we're concerned that's just not strong enough with all the weight on it, we've added, here I'll spin around to the bottom, basically steel rods here that are welded all the way along the side that add extra strength to the seat there. But we are going to actually remove a little bit more material. And I'm actually going to grab, it's right here, right behind me. Let's see if I don't want to overdo the light here, but here's a 450 seat pan in the flesh. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it in this poor light, but there's a steel rod welded along here. And Ryan has modified this one so that I can see where exactly the notches are going to need to be. Maybe if I hold up a piece of paper behind it, you can see it. See those notches there? And I'm going to be making that update with us tonight. So we'll just dig into that. And by the way, if you have any more questions, fire away. I'm not desperately needing to get this all finished right now. So I have more than enough time to answer questions and just hang out. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to open this bit that we need to work on. Let that open. And there you have it. So that is this part has these little crenellations, I guess you could call them, and those interface with the seat pan. It's too dark in here, but there are little holes in the top of the seat pan that fits into it. It makes the assembly. We don't really need a full fixture for that because it tells you where they need to be. It all just locks together, kind of like Legos. So that's what that is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get in here and mess around with trying to edit this notch. We'll see if we can make this work, or if I haven't done this in long enough time. So we'll put a sketch on here. And so basically what I'm doing, if you can't see, is creating a sketch on the side of that part. I don't know if you can see the dark lines. I've just used, the command is called use, and I've used the existing thing, the existing shape, to create a new sketch. And then I can go on there with a line tool or draw, and you can see here I can make a new shape, whatever I want it to do. And if it's black, it's been, quote, defined, which means that it's set, where there's a measurement that tells it where it is. If it's blue, like this one, it hasn't been set, so I can just kind of move it around or do whatever I want with it. Where's that seat pan? I'll take a couple of quick measurements here. Dial caliper, and see how far back we want it to be. 0.57 inches. The dial caliper is my friend. So we'll go back just to kind of get a rough idea. And I can do this, and then I can just type in a measurement. And I'm just about in the ballpark here. We'll make that perpendicular. So this is kind of like a rough idea. The beauty of a program like this is that you can kind of just go in and like get the rough idea of what you want, and then finalize the dimensions off of that. So we want this line to essentially be parallel with this bottom one. So in order to do that, we hit the parallel constraint, and there it is. So that one is now defined. It's not defined in length, but it's defined in the angle that it's going in, because I can see on this part that that's parallel. And then we will bring this over roughly to about here. And I'm going to take one more measurement here to make sure that I want to be there. So the top of that needs to be at about 0.65. So we're going to go from here to here. Put a measurement on this guy just to kind of get a rough idea where we are. Come on, there we go. Oh wow, I kind of nailed it. Wow, okay. Just eyeballed that one, but it's almost exactly where we want it. And then we're going to get a rough idea of what the profile is. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking a part that's been modified and copying what the modification is. That's why I'm kind of like going back and constantly looking at this part and trying to get a rough idea of what the shape will be. holding it up here. Let's do another measurement. Then we're going to measure the depth here. The depth we have at 0.33. So I will do this. And so now you're gonna see this line start to get defined. Except it wants to do an angle, which I don't want to do. So we're gonna try it with a line. We'll make this one parallel too. Now it'll read. There we go. There we go. Now that's our depth. And I think we'll come in. We're going to hit N, and that makes it perpendicular to us. Lovely. And now we're going to make a radius, which the command is going to be, oops, A. There we have it. Okay. Trim that off. And do it on the same on the other side. And we'll make this tangent. And there we have a pretty good rough idea of what that needs to look like. And then we want to make sure that it clears the steel rod. We'll have to check that once we do a version here. So let's go ahead, and I think we are just about ready to make this, to modify this part now that we've drawn this. And we can check this in a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to get rid of these extra lines, and we're going to define everything. We're going to give it an actual size. So let's say that one's, we're going to just leave it what that was. So we're giving that a radius, getting rid of any extra lines here. I'll answer some questions here in a second once I'm done. Okay. Now you still see there's some blue lines there. I need to, those are lines that have not been finalized or finally defined. There we go. So now it's completely defined. That means that there's a measurement defining where every single line is. It's really handy to have those lines turn black. You don't want to have random blue lines, because if you make some change, it could affect what happens to that radius or that line and that location. Okay, we're going to extrude now, which means we're going to get rid of a big part. Actually, that's the use command. I'm going to close the sketch. So now the sketch is closed. You can still see it here. We're going to extrude. You see that? We're going to remove that. And now you're going to, why is it not working? Uh-oh. This is when it gets complicated. Let's see. Why are you not wanting to extrude? Let's do this one. There we go. So that bit's extruded. So you can see how I just chopped that little chunk out. And we're going to do the same thing over. Oh, I see what happened. The sketch isn't right. We need to make the sketch a little bigger. So we'll just go. Include all the bits and bobs. I wonder how weird this looks with me like staring at the screen. Those are defined because I'm using measured points, so I don't have to measure anything more. We'll go back and we'll extrude this whole section here. And for some reason, it does not want to add all those bits together. Well, let's just extrude that bit. Oh, we've added some. We want to remove. being weird now. Try this one more time. Merge scope. There we go. Back up to here. Huh. Doesn't like that. All right, we'll leave that for now. Let's see. So you can see we've removed that bit right there. Let's go back and see if we can do a second pass and clean up this bit here. Oh, I think it's tangent to that part. So there's a couple ways we can do this. The easiest way, though, is going to be just pulling that sketch off the surface. Because what's happening is it's curving into the sketch, and it doesn't know what the software doesn't know what to do. So we're just going to move the sketch back. The beauty of Onshape is that we can go back. If you look over here on the left side of your screen, there's a sequence of operations going down there. And so the sketch is above the extrude. So we're going to go back into that sketch, and we're going to actually we're going to go right ahead of it. So we're going to roll back this little bar to ahead of that sketch. So now we've gone essentially back before we've done any of these operations, and we're going to add a plane. This may be too complicated to explain in a quick, but basically we're going to create a plane off there, so the sketch is going to be removed off the surface, and then we'll do the same thing over again. We'll do it about 1 inch off. That's fine. That'll work great. And then we'll roll this little bar back. We'll create the sketch on the plane. See how it's now? So now the sketch is now. You see that? It's 1 inch off the surface. And now we're going to try and extrude. Oh, it did it already. It's trying to. We're going to extrude 2 inches. It may not like to do through a corner like that. That's what's happening. It doesn't want to go through a fold. This may be more than one operation here. We may have to do this a different way. You can see what we're trying to do there. All right, let's answer some questions first before we do any more. Prop Rat. Howdy Prop Rat. Andrew says, will these modifications affect the ride at all, or is this just for the ease of manufacturing? This will have no effect whatsoever on ride. So basically, you will be able to. This just is creating extra clearance on a part. So, and it's not even really for, well, I mean, you could say it's for ease of manufacturing, but it's primarily for for having better clearance off of different parts. Everything is so tight in there that we just are worried that it's getting so close to the fuel tank that we need to create a little extra clearance. So that's what we're doing. Grant says, kids in bed asleep again. For some reason, I can't see all the comments here. Let's try and open my screen up a little bit. There we go. Hi again. Oh, so Grant's back. He put his daughter to sleep. Jansen's on. Jansen, some of y'all remember. Jansen he's been in our service chair for quite some time, and he's gone off on his own. He does some of our, in the past, you've seen some of our TikTok videos. Those are Jansen. Jansen's on. How's it going, Jansen? Prop Rat says, I watch a lot of you guys combined with Wheels Through Time. Wheels Through Time, if any of y'all know, if you don't know, is a fantastic museum located in North Carolina in the Smoky Mountains in Maggie Valley. And it's called the Museum That Runs. It was founded by a guy named Dale Walksler, yeah. And he was a Harley Davidson shop owner for several shops, I believe, and just collected a massive amount of vintage American iron. He has just incredible collection. He unfortunately died a few years back, but the collection is ongoing, and they raffle a bike off every year that supports the museum. And I always get a few tickets just in case I win really cool vintage Harley Davidson or something. But it's a great museum. It's a great ride to the museum. Highly encourage it. And they have a really great, Dale had a whole YouTube channel on his bikes and the history, and they continue that. So many bikes from the period your company replicates have had small displacement V-twins. Have y'all considered something like a 500cc? We have not. We've considered it, but we've always stuck with the single. It's kind of our. I'm a thumper at heart. My heart thumps too. My heart thumps for thumpers. Just the simplicity of them, and I don't know. We love them. That's not to say that at some point we couldn't go to a V-twin. V-twins definitely have an amazing and a rich American history. So something to consider. We've thought about, like taking half of a Harley Davidson, like a Buell Blast or something, but you'd end up with a pretty hefty transmission for what's available for half a Harley. They do make some that are like V-twins based on our 250. We haven't looked into those as much. He says, I just looked at your 250 Halcyon, let's say, and see all of that space for a 500 or 600cc twin still inside the small, nimble frame. Yep, you could. Our whole thing is just that simple single, but we'll see how it goes. Jeep Man Dan, back again. Good to see you. Will this part be available for sale? It will be for if you have a 450, we've already fitted your 450. You don't have to worry about this clearance issue. But if you need another one, this is not a seat that's available right now for the 250. The way the whole design does not fit a 250 at the moment. Andrew says, will you sell this updated part for existing bikes? Yeah, I kind of just answered that. Like, if you have the 450, we've checked this clearance or modified it ourselves. Or Ryan has. This is basically making sure that fix is instituted as a production fix. Prop Rat says, very cool. Totally respect the thumper life. Yes. Thanks for the answer. Yeah, and I totally respect the V-twin life as well. We've always kind of done that single thing since the beginning. That's kind of our background too. If you kind of look back at the history of Janus, single cylinder, 2 strokes as well. We really love that simple need for one carb. You don't have to balance carbs. I mean, I know you can get away with one carb on a twin too, but it's always been the thumper life. Our first guest on the Janus podcast, Why We Ride, I think it was the first guest, was Jack Robinson from the 4-Stroke Singles National Owner Club, Fesnock, and he has a great his whole organization, which he's been running for many years, is a great support of single cylinder thumper life, and it's a great apology for single cylinders. So if you ever have a chance, you should watch that old episode. He is just full of wisdom as a motorcyclist in general. So anyway, boy, I'm running out of time here on this. This may take a little longer to finish than I initially anticipated. I thought I was going to not have enough to talk about, but then here I am rambling on. Let's see what we can do here to make this work. I think what I have to do is go back maybe even further. Let's roll it back. You can see some modifications we've made. Basically, the part is now becoming simpler and simpler, and we're taking all the different operations out of it. Yep, see, so there it is. There it is, even simpler. And we're back to the sheet metal model. So maybe what we need to do here is actually work in the sheet metal model. And this might be a little more involved than what we can accomplish in one live stream, but let's see what we can do.